Hi, everyone. Another brilliant performance by the Devils. An inspirational win. It was against the odds after losing 2 players to injury in the first quarter, then falling 21 points behind in the second quarter, and then fighting back to take a 24-point lead in the last quarter, then having to hold on at the very end to get the win when Werribee mounted one last challenge against the Devils. So good. With that win, the Devils jumped to 5th on the VFL ladder, and they have finally nailed down a wildcard finals berth in their very first season. Well done. Well done. Welcome back to Devils Chat and a match review of the Tasmania Devils and the Werribee Tigers. The final score in the game was Tasmania Devils, 14 goals, 98, overpowered the Werribee Tigers, 12 goals, 86 by 12 points. How good was it? That's a huge win. Such a great day for the Devils. And a great crowd at North Hobart Oval as well. It looked like 6,000 or 7,000 people there to me. That place is so good when there's a big game on. And the crowd was right into it. Very vocal, very emotional, very frustrated at times. Great support for the Devils. If we do get a home final, look out. It will be a sellout. Another VFL sellout. Fantastic stuff. So let's talk about the game itself. And the Devils, as they usually do, started the game a bit slow. Werribee kicked the first goal, but then a lovely passage of play saw the Devils score their first.
Geordie Payne, as he works them down the wing, that's a great mark taken by the Devils. They're in motion again. Salzberger moving the footy forward. Here's Leary. He'll cut the kick back in. It's a good kick on the head of Dixon, who takes the mark. Good this year, 30 goals to his name for the best possible start, the Devils.
The Devils had more possession than Werribee in the first quarter, but they just couldn't find targets or finish inside the 50. And they went in a quarter time trailing by 4 points. And in the second quarter, the Devils were still dominant, but small mistakes here and there cost them. And Werribee made the most of their slim opportunities, and they led by 21 points about 10 minutes into the second quarter. Then the Devils started to lift. They kicked 4 of the next 5 goals and started to get their reward on the scoreboard. Here's some of those second quarter highlights.
9 matches, 9 goals, and his team desperately needs this. Ivarak walks in from the boundary, snaps, and hits it beautifully.
Great finish.
That's going to lift the Devils. Get the kick away. Ivarak there again. Was he taken without it? No.
Absolutely not.
Leary, an opportunity. The highlight machine. Kick the ripper. Add that one to the reel.
So hit up those ones. Now they're going to have to come up and play on them. See how he kicks for goal, though.
32 disposals last week. He's only got 2 goals for the year. Make that 3. The captain steps up.
And at halftime, the margin was back to 3 points. The Devils kicked the first 2 goals of the third quarter to take the lead for the first time in the match. They really got their game going with plays like this one.
Dixon in the back half, swings it to this broadcast wing. Callanan now in the pink boots. Down the broadcast wing, had to be centimetre perfect, and was. Walker rolls onto the right boot, deep inside 50! Hagan takes the mark! Footy from Tassie.
He needs this.
Points his shoulder to goal, around the body. Hagan takes the lead back for Tassie.
Then right on the 3/4 time siren, there was a free kick paid to Hugh Dixon, right in front of goal.
Jumped on top of it, and right on the 3/4 time siren, Huey Dixon will get a look at it.
Now, we saw it in the AFL a couple of weeks ago, didn't we?
For a 10-point lead on 3/4 time, Dixon kicks the goal. Devils.
Caught a play on.
He has caught a play on, so this is what I said. And Hugh Dixon's not happy. He knows, we knew.
Unfortunately, the umpire said he played on. No goal. That bit of controversy could have been so costly for the Devils. But they started the final quarter very well, and they kicked the first 2 goals of the quarter to bounce out to a 13-point lead. They had lifted the pressure. Their tackling pressure was intense. And these 2 tackling efforts in the forward line was so good.
Opportunity now for Elmer. Flying shot was smothered off the boot. Lazaro, he went the fend off. He's been picked holding the ball.
Hey, Hugh Dixon.
The set shot from the Hugh Dixon pocket. Left foot ball coming back. Bang! Ball won't sit up for him. Dolliver was there with him. Clark now. They're swarming. Here's Menzie again.
Oh!
He's holding the ball. Free kick Devils. What a goal. Number 50. Snaps. You belongs. You better.
They opened the lead up to 24 points. And as we said, the tackling pressure was just too much for Werribee. Hugh Dixon laid a massive tackle, this time in the back line.
Perfect over the next few minutes. Off hands. Right. Through a little bit of traffic. Could have fed the handball. Oh! Dixon took him down.
Wow.
Says knock it over us, Brady. Knock down here.
That's a great effort from a big forward. But to Werribee's credit, they didn't give in. They kicked 2 quick goals to give the Devils a nervy last 5 minutes of the game. But we hung on for a 12-point win. And that's the first time this season I've been right with my tipping margin. In our preview show, I tipped the Devils by 12 points. I've been close a few times, but it's taken until round 20 to finally get one right. Let's talk about some of the players on Saturday. I thought Hugh Dixon had a very eventful game. I mean, he gave away the most free kicks of any player on the ground and a lot behind the play. But he also received the most free kicks of any player on the ground. And then that really silly mistake after the siren kicking a goal. But he was so strong. You saw that tackling, and he took some big, strong marks at crucial times in the game. Harry Ulmer also had a strange game. I mean, he got a lot of the ball. He did some really great things, but I've never seen him fumble so much as he did on Saturday. He's been a big improver this season, though. Bailey Bogue. Another great game from Bailey Bogue. Since he was dropped after that Carlton game, he's come back and been in the best players nearly every week. Now he's probably our most consistent midfield player. And what about the game of Brandon Leary? Moving him into the midfield halfway through the season has been one of the best moves of the year by the Devils coaching staff. He's so elusive and creative, and he's a great user of the ball. I really loved his game. And he features strongly in our votes for this week. I gave 5 votes to Brandon Leary. Probably his best game of the year, with 28 possessions. He was the highest possession getter on the ground for both teams. 8 contested possessions and 2 goals. A great game. 4 votes to Robbie Fox. He's getting better the longer the season goes. He had 25 possessions with 9 intercepts and a lovely long goal. 3 votes, Hugh Dixon. 21 possessions, 15 contested possessions. That's huge. 7 marks and 2 goals. And 2 votes to Bailey Bogue for his 27 possessions and 13 contested possessions. Another great game. And 1 vote to Geordie Payne. 22 possessions, 7 marks, and also a lovely goal in the first quarter. Let me know what you think of those votes. It's not easy. There were so many good players for the Devils, and plenty of players could have been in the votes this week, like Nick Williams, Aidan Begg, Harry Elmer and Lockie Hay. They were all great. To the voting leaderboard then, after round 20, with only one game to go, Jai Menzies still way out in front. He can't be caught now with only one game left on 43 votes. It is close for second though. Hugh Dixon moves into second spot on 25 votes and Jed Hagan stays on 22. Callum Mitchell didn't play, he's on 19, and Zach Adams stays on 16. So let's move on to the goal kicking for this week for the Devils. And after round 20, here's the goal kicking leaderboard. Jed Hagan kicked 1 goal this week, which is unusual for him lately, but he stays in the lead on 35 goals. Hugh Dixon kicked 2 and he moves to 32. Jai Menzies also kicked 2 and he's on 28. Sam Siggins didn't play on 16. And Lockie Hay, he didn't kick any this week. He stays on 14. So with only one game left, it's still a race between Jed Hagan and Hugh Dixon for the club's leading goal kicking award. Okay, as we said earlier, it was a bad day on the injury front for the Devils. Harry Brereton dislocated his shoulder in the first quarter. He's had a lot of issues with his shoulder. And unfortunately, I think he might be done for the season. Cam Owen injured his groin also in the first quarter. And he also probably is finished for the season now. And Jai Menzies hobbled off in the last quarter. But the good news is he did come back on. So fingers crossed, he's okay for next week. We're going to need him in Sydney. And looking ahead to next week, the Devils have another massive game next week. It's against GWS in Sydney. If the Devils win that, they could end up in 3rd, 4th or 5th position on the ladder, depending on other results. 3rd or 4th will give us a big final against Werribee again or Geelong in Melbourne and a double chance. While 5th would see the Devils have a home final, but sudden death. So there's so much to play for next week, because a loss next week could mean a sudden death wildcard match away in Melbourne somewhere. I'll be doing a preview of that game later in the week, so make sure you keep a lookout for that. If you enjoyed today's match review, click the video on your screen up here now for our latest Tasmanian Devils news. And if you're new to our channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. You can subscribe to the channel by clicking the Devils Chat logo up here. I'll see you soon, and go Devils.